Thanks for having me. I work for the Investigative Journalism Bureau. We're a nonprofit newsroom, launched in 2020, and we're based at the Dalhousie School of Public Health. My thing is loading. So I was asked to talk about our series called Suspended, which was, I think now we're up over a dozen stories about a system in Ontario in which many people lose their driver's licenses unfairly due to medical conditions, largely mental health and things like that. So I guess to start, I think it won the CAJ Data Award. But to start, like, how many people have gone to a doctor ever? And maybe some, you don't have to raise your hand for this, maybe some of you went for mental health reasons, or maybe because you fell and broke your arm or something. And if that were to happen and you got the wrong doctor on the wrong day, they could file a report to the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario, and your license would be automatically suspended. And you can imagine the surprise you would feel if you went for one thing and then you left without your driver's license, and that is what we decided to write about. There's a series of stories. They're all pretty good if you want to read them. I think the series has had a profound impact. There's been legislation introduced. Dozens of people have reached out to us, and we can get in all that. So, oh, it's animated. So where this started, it was like a classic story. My aunt worked as a counselor at a treatment facility, and she told me, this was maybe 6 years ago or something, that her clients would lose their licenses for checking in and seeking addictions counseling, not with any evidence of driving under the influence, but just for the simple act of asking for help. And that to me sounded ridiculous, so that's where this started about 5 years ago. I'm gonna skip this one. And so, you know, where did I start? How do you start something like this? For me, it was, this is the report, so this is what the doctor would send in if you were to have one of these filed against you. And for me, the goal was to figure out, you know, what is the report name, or how can I get this in some kind of cumulative amount that would say something interesting, which would maybe prove a hypothesis that I had that a lot of this was bullshit. So that's what I did. This is a Ministry of Transportation form, and I thought, well, why don't I just FOI the Ministry of Transportation for all of these forms? It's the 51 whatever form. And that's what I did, and I got a pretty big fee back. It was, they wanted 60 grand for this, so essentially they were asking me basically to build a computer system which would do this for them, which of course I wasn't planning on doing. I was still a student at the time, and you know, that could have been the end of it, I suppose. I guess I can't do this story. But I decided to do this for some reason. I don't know why. It's like literally 5 years of my life. So I went then to the next place I thought of, which was the Ministry of Health. I don't know if you know, they have OHIP billing codes, and those are actually pretty easy to get. So there's a list online, and any medical, publicly funded medical procedure has a fee assigned to it, a code, which you can then request from the Ministry of Health, and that's what I did. And please just stop me if this is boring or if you have a question. And so I refiled to the Ministry of Health, and that worked. I got some of what I wanted, but they didn't give me what I really wanted, which was the doctors, because you get paid to do this. It's small, but you do get paid. And again, one of my hunches was that perhaps there is some bad faith filing going on here. And then this one, again, it was another 2-year fight. They didn't give me that. And then I asked for a randomized identifier, and they didn't give me that. So I appealed, and then I won. And this was, I got the records finally in 2020. And so, yes, now I can write my story, right? You could, but what the records had was basically 350,000 lines which say, report filed for this condition at this place, this date. And you can't write that because for all I know, for all anyone could know is every single one of these was legitimate and that person shouldn't be driving because they were a threat to themselves or the public, and the system is working great. Okay, I put this here. So we'll just talk about the records, I guess, and then I'll get into the other part. But so we use the randomized identifier, which is like Dr. 72691, and we triangulated from their offices, and we were able to find some of the high billers, and we took all of this to them, of course, and to others who use the system. And I think the median filing for all physicians over like an entire decade was like 5, so less than 1 a year, essentially. And you know, this Dr. Robert Dales filed 4,800, which is more than one every single day, weekends, vacations, everything for a decade. And he got 175 grand. So when you do the 3625, 4,800 times, it starts to add up. And you know, some people said, we were like, surely this is not the reason. This guy's a doctor. He probably makes more than that. And he said, well, that's a mortgage payment. That's your kid through college, so yeah, maybe. Unless they present evidence to the contrary, why not think that? So really, you know, 1/6 of these comes from 20 doctors, and of course, some doctors and their specialties are gonna be filing more of these because of the type of patient they see, but it's a big gulf between the bottom and the top, the bottom, of course, being 0, and the top being 4,800. So that's what the Ministry of Health records showed. But what they didn't really tell us is, again, maybe all of these are legitimate. Maybe this guy just really busy, which is what he said to us. Maybe there's a lot of people in Ontario that shouldn't drive. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you prove that this system doesn't work? Any thoughts? We did that, yeah. Well, there's one weird little tribunal in Ontario which is for this, partly for this, which is if I lose my license and I disagree, I can go fight it. I can appeal it. And that's what really, that was the backbone, I think, of the story. This big data fight, these nice numbers, it was really like a, you know, 10 paragraphs in a story. It wasn't much. So what did we do? We went to dozens of these hearings at this appeal body. We read through every decision for the last 5 years, and that's what really, you know, gave this a pointy edge, which is that 1/3 of them are overturned by this independent appeal body. So of the 350,000 records we had, we can't say a 1/3 of them are bad, but we can say a lot of them probably are bullshit. And of course, a small minority of people actually appeal. It's expensive, it's hard, there's no duty counsel. So it's a hard thing to do, especially if you're maybe embarrassed because you lost your license because they said you drink and drive, but you don't. Which is actually one of the weird findings we found is if you lose your license because a doctor says you have an alcohol problem, your license is suspended longer than if you actually get convicted of drinking and driving. And that was one of our stories, and even Mad Canada was like, this is pretty stupid. This is a dumb thing that they're doing here. And that's, of course, where we found our lead characters, was going to these hearings and getting their names, and then requesting the documents, and getting their phone number, and calling them and saying, what happened to you was bullshit. You want to talk to me about it? And that's what we did. And Chris McKay on the top left here, you know, at the time she was 22. She was a nursing student in Thunder Bay, and she had a depressive episode. She did the responsible thing, which was call somebody and ask them to drive her to the hospital because she wasn't in a condition to drive. And then she lost her license, and a psychiatrist who she doesn't even remember meeting filed it. And we went to the psychiatrist and we said, well, what's going on here? And she said, I can't talk to you, but she did, this wasn't in the story, but she did accidentally forward our email back to us with a note saying like, they're asking about it, what do I do? And then immediately was like, please delete that. And we didn't delete it. But we didn't publish it either. And, you know, she basically, and everyone we talked to basically said, look, I don't trust doctors anymore. Why would I? She almost dropped out of school. She couldn't work. This guy, Tyler English, on the right, you can't really see him, but it's a nice picture. He got addicted to Percocet after like a dental surgery. And he had to go to treatment, and then he left treatment because his wife was in crisis, and then his wife died, and he didn't go back to treatment, and they kicked him out, and they suspended his license. And then he's dealing with the death of his wife, his 2 young kids, can't drive, relying on people to get to and from work, to go to the playground, to do anything, like hundreds of dollars on like taxis and stuff. And he's an addictions counselor, and he's like, I've never driven under the influence. I'm an addictions counselor. I know like what's going on. It's not a fair thing, I don't think. So these are just some of the voices of the people that we spoke with. Both of them were from the appeal tribunal. And then of course, once we started publishing, dozens more started reaching out, and they were in some of our more subsequent stories. So I guess the lesson for this one would be, don't stop at a bunch of numbers and like a spreadsheet. Like there's more that can be said. Data is not a story in my mind. It is like a body, but it's not a story. And you know, there's always like a gut instinct, like I got this new thing, I'm gonna do it. And if we did that, we would have wrote a story that said, a lot of people get their licenses suspended. So what? Maybe it's good, I don't know. But now we have all this other stuff that we can now show and put it in front of the government and say, what the hell are you doing? Which is what we did, and they said, we're doing great. But so to wrap up, there was a bill introduced to change the system because of our reporting, which you know I'm kind of proud of. And there was a lot of grilling at Queen's Park about this series, and a lot of dodging. And then I thought I'd end with 2 little tidbits, because the one thing that I didn't talk about, but they just stopped responding to us like a year ago. They issued one statement, and then for every other story we published for the next like 6 months, they just did not even acknowledge that we were reaching out. So we decided to FOI them about talking about us and our request for comment. And I leave you with 2 fun little tidbits and a good thing to do if you're ever feeling a little confrontational with the public institutions you write about. One of them on the left here, which again, I just got this through an appeal because they actually didn't give it to me at first, but says, as mentioned below, investigative piece on the province's medical condition report. Hope it will not end up on the front page. And then the other guy responds, I truly don't think this is front page material, but I don't know. And I don't know. We had this in our copy, and the Toronto Star actually can't print emojis. But this upside down smiley face to me says more than anything else in this series. I don't know, I love it. I think it's like, yeah, oh fuck, here we go. So yeah, I don't know, that's suspended in a nutshell.